It's time for the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks for joining me this morning. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We are going to talk about some reasons why people either make mistakes or their homes don't sell or they get too emotional over the process and things might happen over the course of the transaction that were within their control, but they let emotions take over. We're going to talk about some things that derail sales. We're going to talk about things that cost people money without them realizing it. Really what we're talking about this morning are common occurrences that happen throughout the course of a real estate transaction, whether you're buying or selling or investing, and how to avoid them. We need to avoid them by first understanding them. A lot of folks do these things without even realizing they're doing them. So this is going to hopefully be an interesting show for you. Of course, we're going to sprinkle in some facts and figures on what's happening in the Charleston real estate market. But if this is your first time tuning in, I've been doing this for almost 15 years now, selling real estate locally for 20. Done about $1 billion worth of real estate transactions, about 1,500 clients represented. We know the market very well. We host this show every week to help you guys understand and become informed on not just the market, but the process in general. So welcome and good morning. Or if you're watching on YouTube, because we put all these, I video myself while I'm in here in the studio. We put all those videos on YouTube and our socials and so on and so forth. So if you want to check us out on YouTube, just search the Brian Beatty team. Same thing with like a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play, all that great stuff. But I'm going to say a few things today that might actually surprise you as well. One of them is that most homes don't sell or don't move forward because of emotion, not things like interest rates. And once you understand that, the Charleston market suddenly starts to make a lot more sense. And so here's what I see all the time here in Charleston, right? Buyers that can buy don't, and sellers who probably should sell wait, right? Not because the math doesn't work, but because emotionally they are afraid of being wrong, right? So I see this all the time, a couple looking in Mount Pleasant or West Ashley, right? Rates haven't really changed in a meaningful way. They did come down this week, and that was a welcome sign of relief. It's the lowest they've been in, I think, 3 years. I don't think that's going to stick. We'll see. I'm going to have Derek Goulet of Fairway Independent Mortgage on at the very end of the show to talk about what's going on in the mortgage market and some things to watch out for. But, rates haven't really changed. Prices haven't really changed. They're still, for the most part, holding strong. We are definitely seeing, by the way, properties sitting on the market longer. We're seeing that if you don't get your strategy right, and then you wait too long to shift, it can mean bad things for ultimately what you walk away with in the form of net proceeds on the sale, because you have to do some things to reinvigorate your listing if it goes stale, and there's more often than not a cost to that. So we are seeing more properties stay on the market for a little bit longer. Price has a lot to do with that in this market. But either way, for the buyer that's kind of looking right now, they, let's say, again, in this example, they're looking West Ashley, they're looking Mount Pleasant, but rates haven't really changed, prices haven't really changed, and they freeze because they're afraid the market might do something differently in the next 6 months or so from now, right? And so the question is that a numbers issue or is that an emotional issue? I'm not saying it's the right or wrong perspective. I'm just identifying that there is a logical approach and an emotional approach. So for those people that are in that situation, it's really interesting when you start talking with them, because, we'll get calls from folks in all different stages of the home buying or home selling process. I don't know if this number is still accurate, but as of a year or two ago, the average amount of time it took from the time somebody initially inquired, right? So we call that a lead, right? Somebody goes online and they put in their information, either to see a property or to talk to an agent. The average lifespan from that moment, right, the birth of a lead, until the time they buy a house is 13 months. That's usual. That's the average, right? Obviously, some people are significantly longer, some people are significantly shorter, but that's about the average from the time they start looking until the time they make a decision. And I think once agents understand that and they understand, all right, well, where are you along this road, right? I like to think of it as like a 3-stage approach. You've got the aspirational phase of the process where it's like, you're sitting down at the dinner table and you kind of, you know that you want to move. At some point, it's definitely on the horizon. You just don't really know when. You don't really know where. You're not entirely sure what that even's going to look like. You just know that at some point soon you want to start taking that seriously. It's an upcoming thing you either want to do or need to do. Maybe you need more space. Maybe the space is too much for you, and it's time to simplify and reduce the level of responsibilities you have to maintain your home. But either way, you go from this aspirational phase of, I know we want to do it, we're just not really sure what that looks like, to what's then called the research phase, where people actually start gathering data, right? They start determining, all right, well, if we were to sell our house, how much is this thing going to actually, what's it worth? And then if there are some things that you need to do to the house, what do we do? What do we not do? What do we update? What do we sell as is? Frankly, those questions right there, I know I'm going a little off topic here, but those questions are the ones that I love to be looped in on, because I understand what buyers are willing to pay for and what buyers are not willing to pay for in the form of either upgrades or condition-related questions. So, number one, we can help you with determining what you should do, what you can do, and what you should not do. And then on top of that, we can help you control the pricing because, as I've told many people that listen to this show, because, gosh, I've been on here for 15 years, I also invest in real estate, right? I'm an investor. So I have a real estate sales team. I have a property management brokerage. I invest in real estate, and I do private money lending. And so all of that combined helps us really help people in a variety of ways. But, I think that the people that are gathering research right now, that's an excellent opportunity for us to help people save money in the process. But most people go at it alone. They either get, a recommendation from a friend, which, like if they do a great job and they're reasonably priced and they do it on time and they show up and, they're a trusted resource, a referral, by all means. All I'm saying is, we've probably generate probably well over $1 million a year in just contractor related business. And so we know the right people to use. I use them myself. I've written millions of dollars in my own money checks in renovations on properties over the years. So I know how much things cost, and I can help guide people when they're walking through their house and they're putting on the goggles of a buyer, right? Looking at it through their lens, not through somebody that lives in their home every day. And they ask those questions. That's an excellent opportunity to bring in a real estate agent. But anyways, finishing this loop here, we go from the aspirational phase to the research phase, of course, then to the transactional phase, right? I see something I like, I'm going to buy it. I'm ready to sell my home as soon as I figure out where I'm going to go, right? All different times along the way, there's guidance that can be had. There's information that you can use to your benefit. There's real opportunity for savings. So on one hand, people are self-sufficient, right? And they think that AI is going to solve everything for them. And to an extent, it's helpful. I've also seen the opposite of that. I've seen AI really screw things up for people with unrealistic expectations rather than trusting their professional, their market expert. So that's a new interesting one to overcome. But anyways, for these folks that are waiting on the perfect time, at least it's the truth is, the perfect time really only exists in hindsight, right? People aren't waiting necessarily for better data. They're waiting for certainty. And certainty never really shows up before a really hard, good decision, really only after, right? You do the best you can and you run the numbers and you make sure that it makes sense. But at the same time, I've had folks that are like, maybe they were downtown and they wanted to sell their home in 2019, but they decided to wait. Then 2020 happened, then 2022. And now they're going to put their home on the market because it represents to them probably the last best, really strong exit point before the market reaches even more equilibrium. And so the nice thing is that the price has grown, but now they're in a market where there's not as much demand, which means it's going to sit longer. And unless we incorporate that into our strategy, they might end up taking slightly less than what they may have gotten for it maybe a year or so ago. So timing is a really tough thing to analyze. When I look at timing, I look at three basic things. I look at, assuming that everything works out for you logistically, right? Like you're ready and you're in the right headspace and financially you're able to pull this off. But first, I look at the current market environment, right? Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? What's happening from a trends perspective in our general area, right? Is it the right time to sell? How many other homes are we competing with, right? That's the second thing. What does the current comp environment look like, right? How many other homes are on the market right now? How many other people are we competing against? How many homes have gone under contract or sold in the past few days? Or have we had a bunch of homes that hit the market and then they were taken off because they couldn't sell? Meaning a lot of people think their home in that area is worth X, but really the market's not willing to pay that price, which means it's not. And so we look at the current comp environment. We look at the overall market trends. And then we look logistically at where they're moving, and we look to see if there's any opportunity we can have to negotiate some favorable terms, right? So let's say we're in a market where we're shifting from a seller's market to more of a normal / buyer's market. It's a lot easier these days to approach somebody with a home sale contingency and say, hey, I like your home. I want to buy it. I do need to sell my home first, though. So if you're willing to give me some time with appropriate deadlines along the way, I'd like to buy your home. I just need to sell mine first. And if I don't achieve these deadlines, you can put the home back on the market if you choose. Or you might like my offer enough to choose to wait a little while I get mine sold. And there's a whole ball of wax involved with that type of sale. And I've talked about that many times on this program. You can just go on YouTube and you can search, home sale contingencies and so on and so forth on my channel. I've got over 1,000 videos there. But that's going to bring us to the end of our first segment. When we come back, we're going to talk about 5 little things that I think kind of quietly kill a home sale. We're going to talk about why some homes feel expensive, right? You just get that good feeling when you walk into somebody's home. And we're also going to talk about why identical homes can attract different buyers. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. If you want to reach out to me, by the way, my phone number, it comes straight to me, not to my team. It's 843-800-0065. If you want to reach me personally, call or text 843-800-0065. Maybe you're one of those folks that's kind of in that research phase right now where you're trying to figure out what that next stage looks like. Maybe you have some questions about your home and what should be done or not done to it. How much does that cost? Maybe you don't even have a budget for those types of things. We have opportunities to help you renovate your home before it sells and pay it off at closing. So don't let the fact that you don't have enough cash on hand right now prevent you from reaching out to see if we can help, because we have some solutions out there for just about everybody. So 843-800-0065 is the number. Listingsincharleston.com is the website. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks again for joining. We are talking today about really things that can kind of just go wrong in the course of a transaction. And really, I guess if I'm being more specific, avoidable mistakes, right? That's really the key here, because a lot of these things are just kind of like silent killers, right? They're things that cost you money, cost you time, cost you frustration, cause the home to sit on the market longer, which increases your holding costs. I mean, I can go on and on and on. There's a lot that needs to happen in order for the transaction to be, in my mind, an exceptional one, right? And that's obviously what we aim for, right? Customer service is our thing. We understand this market and process incredibly well. We've done it. We've sold 1,500 homes here locally. So our goal is to help you way before we, put your house on the market or go inside that first house to start looking for something to buy. We have ways of helping people save time, money, and frustration throughout this entire process, and the savings are real. So we're going to continue our list here, and let's talk a little bit about why homes tend to sit on the market, even in some great Charleston neighborhoods, while others sell quickly. Right? I'm sure everybody wants to have that success story where they get to tell their friends at, their dinner party that, oh yeah, we sold our home in 2 days and we had 6 offers and, it was just a fantastic, lovely, beautiful process. We all strive for that, right? We all hope that happens, but the market reality is just different now, right? It's not 2019 and 2020 where you put your home on the market and you've got a line out the door and people don't really care so much about the sales price because they're getting such a good interest rate that the payment's ridiculous. It's not that market anymore, right? We're in a normal market right now, which is to say that most properties on average are going to take about 6 to 8 weeks before they sell. And so this patience that's required in this market now is the big change. And if you don't have it, or if you can't afford to have it, then you really need to make sure you're selecting somebody that can pull this off for you, that has the pedigree, that has the plan to confidently say, if this is what you need, this is how we're going to get it done because I've done it so many times before. And if that's, by the way, if that's you, if you're in that position, if you're thinking of selling a home, whether you're in a rush or not, most people aren't. But every once in a while we get calls from folks that are in tough situations and we help them out. The nice thing is that we offer a bunch of options on my real estate team. Sales, management, investments, quick cash offers, all of it. So if we can ever help you, by the way, 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. And our website is listingsincharleston.com. But let's talk for a little bit about some of these things that can kind of quietly kill a sale. And sellers almost, never blame these particular issues. And the first one is that the pricing is technically right? It's the price that you select for the house that you're selling is right on paper, but it might be strategically wrong. So let me give you an example, and we'll keep it simple. Let's say that your home is worth about $500,000. You list it at $5,099, right? Now think about the psychology or the strategy that people use to search for real estate online, right? They don't stop their search or create a bracket that ends in 9999999. They're going to search $450,000 to $500,000, or they're going to search $500,000 to $600,000. So if you price your home at $500,001, then you're missing all of the people online that are searching $450,000 to $500,000. You want to put that price right at $500,000. I know that it looks nice if it's a sticker on a car that we're selling in a parking lot, but it's not. It's a house. Put it at $500,000. You get the people that are searching $450,000 to $500,000 and $500,000 to $600,000. You just doubled the amount of people that are looking at your property online, right? We have to understand how people search for real estate. And it's always not going to work. It's not always going to work out that way, right? It's not like your home might be worth right at where that round number is. But then we have to look at the competition and we have to look at how long those other properties have sat on the market. And maybe we take the strategy of cutting everybody else out at the knees and being the price leader. Maybe we have an upgrade or we have some concession that puts us in the lead, right? It's all about strategy. And I would say the second is like the photos. We've gotten better, I think, as a community of real estate agents and understanding the value in professional photography. I still almost every day see properties with photos from iPhones, and some of them are on multi-million-dollar properties, and it just it steals a little portion of my soul every time I see that because somebody is going to pay an agent a very large commission for photos they took on an iPhone. But hey, that's their business plan, right? That's their business. But for a lot of these properties that sit on the market, the photos are okay, but they're forgettable, right? People buy with emotion first. And I got to tell you that the wonder of virtual staging can completely change the look and the feel of a property online and actually create excitement. I know because we've done it many a time on the properties that we've sold. Whether it's, a property that we virtually renovated or just a property that we virtually staged. I'm telling you that the effects are real. But if the photos are just blah, then you kind of get lost in a sea of other listings, right? There's nothing exciting really about it. Which kind of goes in line with, the homes that just don't really feel like the showing goes well. Maybe it's just cluttered. I'll give you a perfect example. This was many, many years ago. A retired couple lived in a very nice, very large home for just them. And in their family room, which was big and beautiful and ornate and incredible amounts of trim and built-ins and just attention to detail, beautiful big like 90-inch TV above the fireplace. And then just right in the middle of the room, they had two lazy boy recliners with little like benches on either side of their seat to put their stuff. And that's just, they enjoyed their privacy. They enjoyed, I think, Game of Thrones at the time, but that's how they loved living in their family room. But obviously that's not the appropriate setup for that room. And it took a little effort on my end to get them to kind of change up their nightly routine in an attempt to just get their home sold. But there are going to be times where homes just don't feel right, and the experience of a quality agent can really help there. I think another quick silent killer are times in which we either over or under explain issues, right? I think both at times can create distrust. I think just deliver the facts, deliver what you are required to deliver, and then rely on the buyer's inspection to let them ask informed questions. And then if need be, get contractors involved or provide additional explanation. Don't hide anything. Don't cheat, right? Don't break the law. But you don't have to write an essay about the roof shingle that peeled up 4 years ago during a windstorm and the rain that got on. You don't need to go that far. And then also just assuming that buyers see value the same way that sellers do. Right? It's going to be different strokes for different folks. That's why we say things like don't change the granite countertops in your car or in your kitchen. Don't put granite countertops in your car either. That's a horrible idea. But don't put new granite countertops in your kitchen, because that's a highly emotional decision for a buyer. And what you choose, you're going to write the check either way. But if you choose something that the buyer doesn't like, but they love everything else about the house and they want to buy it, you're not going to get full value for that. So it's better to offer something like a concession. So just some things to take into consideration. And then, there are times where you walk into a home and it just feels expensive, right? It feels good. But I would say that most buyers rarely say this home feels overpriced. What they say is that it really just doesn't feel worth it, right? Maybe it's low ceilings that haven't been scraped, or it's really dark rooms, or it's awkward layouts, or it's, all the blinds are closed when they go through a showing, and it just feels a little cavernous, a little dungeony. Perception matters, right? That feeling can kill a deal faster than price. And so we're in this market now where sellers do have to put in effort if they not just want to get their home sold, but they want the best price. And that means creating an inviting environment, right? And then the last thing that I would say, just before we take another break, is that you've got these two homes that are on the market. Let's say they're identical, but they're going to get different buyers, right? Two homes on the same street can attract completely different buyers. And it's based on how they're positioned, right? Marketing doesn't just attract more buyers, it attracts the right ones, right? And so when we go to market our properties, this is kind of like our secret sauce, and I'm not going to go through the specifics of how we do it, but I can just tell you, and you can kind of fill in the blanks here, or call me and I'll give you the rundown of everything that we do and how we do it. But the idea is that if we're marketing a house and we have a good understanding of the type or types of buyers that would be interested in that type of house, then why not go and find those people, right? It makes perfect logical, reasonable sense, right? But the problem is most agents don't. They just put it in the MLS. Once it's in the MLS, it then broadcasts to, every website out there, Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, Homes.com, agents' websites, blah, blah, blah. And then it's, for the most part, a waiting game, right? And if it doesn't sell within a few weeks, it's time to lower the price, right? That's about the only tool they have in their tool belt. Our position is that we need to go and identify the people that would be interested in a property like this. Well, how do we do that? Well, we use a company that helps us identify those particular people through demographics, geographics, and online behavior, right? If someone from Ohio is researching schools in Charleston and has been online in the past 90 days looking at real estate in that area, in that price range, that's a pretty good person that we should be targeting. But the problem is most agents don't have that setup. They don't understand how to do that. They understand that that's a great idea, but they don't have the mechanism. They don't have the process. They don't have the marketing platform, or they don't have the budget to do that because it's not an inexpensive proposition. But that's one thing that we do differently that obviously really helps when we're marketing our properties, because we are sending out multiple marketing campaigns to multiple different types of buyers with the appropriate messaging for that buyer type, right? One home isn't going to attract just one type of buyer. It could be a first-time home buyer. It could be a move-up buyer. It could be a relocating buyer. It could be a buyer that wants access to great schools and starts a family. It could be somebody that's downside. I mean, there's fill in the blank, but all these different folks have defining characteristics. And that's what we tap into, and that's how we market our homes in addition to what everybody else does. So selling isn't about square footage. It's about perception. It requires a plan. It requires market know-how. And I think at this stage, it requires somebody that has been there and done that and is still invigorated and loves what they do. And I'd like to raise my hand for that. So if you're interested in chatting with me about your situation, whether it's something that's going to happen soon, this year, next year, always happy to help. Never a wrong time to call. My number is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or you can reach out to us through our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube and also our podcast on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play and all that great stuff. We are going to change gears, and we're going to bring in Derek Goulet of Fairway Mortgage to talk about the state of the mortgage market, among other things. He's a routine guest on the show. Derek, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure. All right, so we had some good news this week, finally, about interest rates. I think it was a nice sigh of relief for people. Tell us what happened, and then I want to talk a little bit about and kind of tie in what I was talking about earlier in this program about timing, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. But first, kind of give us the news on what happened this week and where we stand.
So biggest announcement in a while is that the Treasury is actually going to buy a large chunk of what are called MBSs, mortgage-backed securities. And so when people look at interest rates, mortgage-backed securities are specifically what dictate whether rates are going up or down. And this $200 billion represents somewhere, north of 10% of all mortgage transactions throughout the course of a year. And so knowing that they have pre-sold at least 10% of this is a good sign that things are continuing to move in a downward direction.
Excellent. So we hit 3-year lows this week?
Yeah.
On interest rates?
Yep. Yeah. Most things through the course of this week, last week and into this week have been, again, we're January 26th, but most things have had a 5 in them. Not all, but most things have had a 5, and we have not been at those levels, sustained at those levels in a couple of years.
That's a good key word there, sustained.
Yep.
Do you think this will stick?
I do. I still think that, the stickiest part of inflation is gone. The tariffs did not end up having the inflationary, they were a one-time effect on inflation. And we've moved past most of that. The biggest component of inflation in the CPI number, 43% of that number is actually housing. Mm-hmm. And as we are aware, housing has stagnated nationally, and so have rents. And so the stickiest part of inflation we've moved past. So that means that there's still downward pressure as opposed to upward pressure, not knowing what those other impacts were going to be.
So let's talk about being prepared with information like this, right?
Yep.
You have a lot of folks out there right now that have been waiting for something to happen with interest rates, and maybe a quarter point or a half a point is the difference between them being able to buy what they want or at all, or not.
Yep.
And so we also have a lot of people that over the course of the past few years have purchased homes but have rates pretty significantly higher than they are right now. You know, folks in the low, mid, high sevens, probably some people out there with some eights.
There's a few of those, yeah.
And so, you know, we talk like there was a huge refinance rush, right? When all those all interest rate was at 3%, right? Or less. Now we've had this nice little drop in rates. And I think the fear that a lot of people have is, you know, like they have to go at it alone. They have to be the one that's prepared and understand the opportunities in the market and then reach out and say, I want to get a refinance, right? Let's talk a little bit about how you help them with that.
So I think there's a reactive and a proactive nature to a refinance. And so we are taking the proactive, which is, you know, having a conversation with somebody around what they want, either their target, what they think is rate, which rate just translates to payment. So we translate that to payment. How much do you want to save on a monthly basis? And then what we do is we build backwards to what that translates to an interest rate. And if that's below the current market today, what we do is we say, okay, we're going to take a wait, watch, and see approach. We're going to have your file underwritten. And we're just going to, you know, we got 4 months to figure that out. 4 months is a long time. And there's going to be days where, you know, you're either close enough that it makes sense to finally pull the trigger or you just sit and wait. And that's actually helped us get about, you know, probably 15 to 20 new loans through the pipeline that otherwise we would have missed the opportunity, because sometimes these windows in time are fleeting where, you know, you get 8, 9, 10 days of a little bit of a downward trend. And then, you know, you can lose all that in 48 hours real quick if the Fed speaks and the market doesn't like it, or, you know, Greenland or whatever the next soup du jour is in the news. So that's where working with somebody, being proactive and approaching this as a team, as opposed to you feeling like you got to go at it on your own.
Gotcha. And then also, I know something you do, but you didn't mention, you look at really how long it's going to take for them to make that up. So in other words, you're in your home right now, you've been in there for 5 years, or let's say you've been in there for 2 years, right? And you've got a 7.5% interest rate. And now we hear, you know, Derek closing loans with interest rates with a 5 in front of them. Let's say, just for the sake of conversation, they can go from a 7.5 to a 6.
Yep.
What you would then also show them is, here's the cost associated with doing the refinance. Here's the savings that you achieve every month. We also need to ask the question of how long you're going to be in your home to determine whether this makes sense or not.
Correct. Yep. And honestly, given that there's still more downward pressure than upward pressure in rates, sometimes we're looking at this first refinance as what we call a free refi, where we cover all the fixed costs. So with any transaction, there's 2 types of costs: fixed and reoccurring. So the fixed costs, whether it's a purchase or a refi, is just sunk money. It's gone forever. The variable costs are things that reoccur: taxes, insurance, interest. So that's not really a cost. I mean, you can look at it like it, but you're going to write a check for those things whether you refinance or not. So what we look at is, what are the fixed costs and how long does it take us to make that portion of this refinance back? Or, you know, if you could get 5.99 today with, you know, rolling $4,000 into your loan. What if we took 6 1/8 and rolled nothing into your loan, or 6 1/4? And then the other thing that we look at, again, depending on time horizon, if they're 2 years in, maybe we don't go all the way back to 30. Maybe we give them a 28-year loan. So instead of saving $300 a month, they save $228 a month, but they also don't lose those 2 years on the time horizon. Or if they do restart it and we say, okay, make the old payment on the new loan for the next 12 months and you're right back to where you were.
Right.
So there's some different tools and techniques that we get to strategize with people depending on what their ultimate end goal is.
So I think the takeaway for listeners is, get into Derek's pipeline if you have an interest rate at 7 or above?
7 or above is a worthy conversation to have.
Right. It's all about saving money, guys. That's at the end of the day, that's all we're talking about. And I know a lot of people, as unfortunate as it is, given what I do for a living, right? I can't force people to do it, but there are a lot of people I know that missed refining into like a 3 or sub 3 rate And by the time they got around to it, it was like 4.75, 5%. And they missed out.
Yeah.
Life is busy. Life, here we are. It's almost the end of the month.
Yeah.
Already.
We're already through January, basically.
So if that's something that you guys want to achieve, let Derek know. Let him kind of run the file, so to speak. Let him underwrite it. Let us determine how we can help you, or how he can help you, rather, because I don't have anything to do with it other than being a connector, which I love to be. But get in there and save some money. He'll let you know when it's the right time.
Absolutely.
He takes on that burden of watching the market every day, just like I do.
Yep.
With a few minutes left, what's left to chat about? What else do you would like for people to know?
Well, I mean, based on this, timing the market is tough. And I think that, we just kind of alluded to it, but I'll just kind of say it straight out. Like, if you're not in, timing the market is really difficult, because those windows in time where the perfect opportunity for you might only exist for 2 or 3 days. And again, we closed about 20 loans because we were proactive, not reactive. Mm-hmm. And there's probably 30 or 40 more loans that we have not yet gotten to, because that window of time is past. So there's going to be moments in time. Be proactive, work with a professional, get your stuff ready. Don't drag your feet. Again, I'm going to reiterate the same thing for a purchase. Like, the right house is going to come available and you're not going to be ready. So get in, get early, get underwritten, and be ready to go.
I love that. Honestly, man, the thing that I find really challenging in this industry, as somebody that's been selling real estate for 20 years, is getting people to proactively have a conversation with a lender before they buy a house, because of the fear that running their credit is going to ding their credit score, or they just don't want to deal with it until they find something they like enough to buy. And I'm sure you and I could sit here and go through story after story after story of how people missed out on that opportunity because things took longer than they thought they would take, or there was some mistake on their credit report that wasn't even their fault, but it messed up their credit, and now they can't buy a house or buy what they want to buy. I'm telling you, folks, just have that introductory conversation. Let him help you understand how to approach this process and make as much money in it as possible. That's really what we're doing here.
Yeah. And I'll say, having a conversation with somebody is just that. It's a conversation. It's not scary.
Yeah.
If you can answer where you live and where you work, that's about the extent of a loan application. I mean, legitimately. So again, don't overhype it. Have the conversation and learn what you can do.
If someone wants to have a conversation, what's the best contact info for them to use to reach out to you?
Cell phone, 949-280-8044, 949-280-8044. Just give me a call.
Awesome. And of course, if you guys want to reach out to me to get to Derek, you didn't jot that down in time, listingsincharleston.com is our website, and 843-800-0065 is the number here to reach me personally, 843-800-0065. Derek, thanks for coming in. Thanks for helping us understand where we are right now, and for helping people save money in this process.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again.
All right. You take care.
You too. Bye.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Thanks to Derek Roulette for coming into the studio and helping us understand what's happening with interest rates and just the mortgage market in general. Again, guys, preparation is key. You can save a lot of money in real estate if you just have the right information at the right time. And so that's what we try and help you guys do. So again, if you want to reach Derek, probably best thing to do is just reach out to me and I'll get you guys in touch. My number, 843-800-0065. You can call or text that. 843-800-0065 or listingsincharleston.com. So let's talk about a few more things that kind of quietly kill real estate deals, or at least make things a lot harder than they need to be. Two quick things. One, Zillow's estimates, or any sort of automated home valuation tool. Everybody has one. Everybody wants to know instantaneously what their home is worth. And, they believe the Zestimate, or they make decisions based on the Zestimate, and it feels accurate until real buyers show up, right? The Zestimate does not contain any information whatsoever as it relates to the emotional state or level of motivation of that seller. It cannot properly quantify the upgrades that your home has or does not have in relation to the other homes that they're comparing your home to. And they ignore condition, right? They don't know what's going on inside your house. And there's not really an easy way for you to be like, well, in this room, this needs to be done. And it's not like there's this long online list of things that you can fill out to improve the accuracy. It's just, I've seen 2 homes downtown, same size, same block, sell for $500,000 apart. How does an algorithm explain that, right? Zestimates don't buy homes, people do. And so if you're thinking of determining what your home is worth, go with a real estate agent that can give you an accurate read on what the market will actually support for a house like yours right now. And I think the last thing that I would say just really quickly is that you have all these situations where you haven't really formalized the relationship with your real estate agent yet. Maybe you're a buyer that's just calling and looking at listings online and you see something you like and you chat with the agent that either gets assigned to you or that represents the seller. And they start asking questions. You have a nice chat. And then you kind of realize after the fact that like, man, I kind of just gave them a lot of information about me. I kind of put myself out there. They now know my time frame and my motivation and so on and so forth. I mean, really, anything you say can and will be held against you when we get to the point where you're going to negotiate to purchase that property. If you've just told the listing agent all of this information and, you don't have an agent, well, guess what? You've just given the seller the upper hand. Or like as another example, let's say that you've got your home for sale and, somebody has a showing and you're walking out of the door, same time the buyer and their agents are at the door to go and look at your house and you get caught up in conversation, right? These are the opportunities where information, if obtained, can be used to their advantage and to your disadvantage. So you have to be careful with what you say or how you say it, while at the same time giving someone like a real estate agent enough of an opportunity to really, truly help you. And it's a fine line. So my suggestion is interview your agent. Have a formal conversation about what they do, how they do it, their level of experience, and what the process is going to look like with them. And then if you really want to get serious about it, compare that to a different agent. See which one's better. Don't you deserve better? I think so. All right, well, stick around. Actually, that's it, guys. This is the show. Thanks for joining this morning as we talk about Charleston real estate. We'll have a lot more. We'll do a full market review next show. We'll do the entire 2025 market year in review and talk about some things to come. So thanks for listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, 843-800-0065 or listingsincharleston.com if you want to reach me. Have a great day.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065.